1985 was a fantastic year for video games, especially in the arcade. For me, it felt like a turning point, kind of getting away from all of the Space Invaders and Pac-Man clones, and we're starting to see more and more games with unique stories, unique feels to them. Here are just some of the arcade games you were playing back in 1985. Starting the list off with Commando, and if you grew up with the NES like I did, you'll recognize a few of the games that came out in the arcade in 85 that we saw later on the NES, like in 87, 88, somewhere in there. Commando was fun. It was a quarter muncher though, wasn't it? Because I know I didn't last too long in this game. I still played it though, because man, there's just so many things happening. You can only shoot, you know, so many directions, and of course you run into the bullets and people, and I don't know, man. Now, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Commando came out around the same time, but I don't think they're related. Maybe they are, and you can let me know in the comments. You know, or maybe just Commando is Commando. There happened to be a video game. There happened to be the movie as well. There's an old title game called Frontline, and I remember seeing this game and thinking to myself, wow, this is like a better graphics version of Frontline. Well, kind of. I wish you still had that pivot controller, kind of like how Atari Warriors has. You know, it wasn't the case with this game, but super, super fun, and glad to see Capcom making arcade games, not really knowing who Capcom was at the time, but showing that appreciation. And don't worry, we'll see Konami on the list later today, too. In the arcade, we had Dig Dug 2. Now, Dig Dug, one of my most favorite arcade games from that time, and I was like, oh, Dig Dug 2? Well, this is a different version of Dig Dug, isn't it? It's almost like going like from Zelda 1 to Zelda 2. We have Dig Dug, the first one, and then we have Dig Dug 2, which now you're above the ground, but you're chopping off parts of the island to make the enemies sink in there. Well, still a fun game all the same, and you still have the familiar characters, though, that you can inflate, so there's that kind of Dig Dug style to it, too. Admittedly, I never saw this in the arcade. Did this only come out in Japan, maybe? I don't know. You might see a couple of games that only came out in Japan on this list, but I did want to at least showcase this game, too. Oh my goodness, did I play some Gauntlet. I liked the fact that instead of having lives, you had life. And the more quarters you popped in, the more your health would just increase. That was kind of cool. So instead of like continuing your game, you're like, oh, I'm running out of health. I may as well, you know, feed the machine more quarters to, make me last a little bit longer. 4 players you can choose from, each with their own abilities, or with their own stats, I suppose you can say. You know, like, you know, it might be super strong, but you don't have the best magic, but maybe you have the best magic, but not the most, you know, shield ability, whatever that's called. You know, you take the most damage, I guess. I always thought it was kind of a gut-sinking feeling that the ghosts could just, like, absorb into you. I was like, oh, that... It didn't sound fun for me back in 1985. Of course, this game is best with four players all, you know, battling it out all at the same time. And it was during a time in the arcade, too, where if other people were playing the game, you didn't really ask, did you? Like, by today's standards, you might say, hey, is it cool if I jump in here and something like that? But I remember in the arcade in the 80s, if someone was playing Rampage, if someone was playing Gauntlet, for instance, we're talking about Gauntlet right now, you wouldn't ask. You just walk right up, you pop in a quarter, and congratulations, I'm your new best friend while we play this game. That's just the way it was. Different time, I suppose. Kind of miss those days. Well, a great game all the same. Love me some Gauntlet. Played okay on the NES, but the arcade experience was always the best. I sure played my fair share of Ghosts and Goblins in the arcade as well. I was never good at this game. Still not good at this game. Love watching people play like the NES version and just like speed running it and no hit. I was like, man, how do you do that? Jealous. I loved this game. This game came out, let's see, I remember playing this game at Burger Chef, of all places, so if you know what Burger Chef is, it's time for your colonoscopy. Because at the time, there weren't a whole lot of creepy vibe games. You know, fall, the best season of all time, Halloween, the best holiday of all time. And we had like Haunted House for the Atari. I mean, we had a few and far between. So it was cool that we had a game that had ghosts and goblins and bats and were there skeletons later on? I don't know, just, it had that creepy vibe to it. But man, I just loved. And a great soundtrack as well. I also remember my arcade version because, you know, the NES D-pad wasn't the standard yet. As far as button placement goes. This game had the joystick right in the middle, and then a jump and attack button on both the left side and the right side. So depending on if you want to play right-handed or left-handed, it would give you that option. Super classic, super iconic. Absolutely love this game. I mean, that's what was rough about some of the arcade games, is you pop in your 25 cents and you only last 2 minutes. You know another thing that only lasts 2 minutes? Not that. Factor meals in the microwave, because 2 minutes in the microwave, that's it for all of them. These Factor meals are fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved, and created by chefs. And they're delivered right to your front door. This one is the herb-crusted chicken with mashed cauliflower and toasted almond green beans. Let's check it out. Especially in the month of November, grocery stores are insane. Get me out of there. With these, they're delivered right to your door. You're skipping the lines. No chopping, no prepping, no dishes afterwards. You know, my kid really likes it for the convenience too. Like after school, I'm still at work. They want to grab something to eat really quickly. In lieu of like some frozen thing that they have to put in the toaster that's like flavorless, they have a nice, nutritious meal waiting for them anytime they come home at their convenience. Now this is the herb-crusted chicken, but I like how they have seasonal flavors too. Either way it's delicious, I'm sure. Proper green beans too, none of that canned weirdness, you know? They also have smoothies, shakes, cold pressed juices like this pineapple, turmeric, basil. Oh, it's amazing. Actually, really like that one. High source of vitamin C and K, I'll take it. Head to Factor75.com or click the link below. Use my code JohnRiggs50 and get 50% off your first Factor box. I love me some Factor, but I also love this game. Well, this is the year Green Beret came out. Now, I remember playing this game as Russian Attack, but Green Beret itself came out in 1985. So maybe you played it as Green Beret in 1985. Maybe you did. I played it as Russian Attack either way. Same game, same style of game. I never liked the fact that up was jump. But what are you gonna do? You have a shank button, that's right. Kill people with your dagger, your knife, or whatever. And then these other guards or enemies will drop a super item here. Now in Green Beret, it's like a flamethrower. In Russian Attack, it was like a bazooka. But either way, very cool game. It was one of those, it was a one-hit kill game. And that's what annoyed me probably the most with this game. Not even up being jump was my annoyance, because we had that in Kangaroo, you know, whatever. It was the fact that this game was a one-hit kill. I mean, even Ghosts and Goblins, as difficult as it was a two-hit kill, because you have your armor and everything. This one, nope. Just, if they run into you, you're gone. If they shoot you, you're gone. If they step on a mine, you're gone. Well, that makes sense too. But very, very cool game. I like this one a lot. And never mind Green Beret. The game's called Russian Attack, the Russian Attack. It's the best pun in video game history. Gunsmoke was another game I played a whole lot of in the arcade. And I told you, you're going to see a whole lot of games from Capcom and Konami starting to make their way into the arcade before they started doing, you know, all the home console stuff. Which, I mean, they did a home console stuff before all this too. But you really started to see a lot of creativity and things going on, like with Gunsmoke. The thing with Gunsmoke is, it's a vertical shooter, no matter which way you spin it. And we've had so many of those along the way. We've had so many space shooters, World War II style shooters, and the same company, Capcom. I mean, they did 1942, 1943, and then they did Gunsmoke. It's kind of the same game, isn't it? A little bit. At least with this game, you have your firing buttons. You can fire to the left, fire to the right, or fire straight ahead of you. So that's pretty cool. I always liked that option, where it's just like, well, I don't have to just be right in front, like move in front of you to shoot you. If you're off to the side, I'll get you to the side. I mean, enemies did it all the time. Why couldn't I? Well, now you can, with Gunsmoke. Love me some Gunsmoke. Horizon by Ireme. This game is the Moon Patrol sequel you never knew existed until just right now. I say that because it was the Moon Patrol sequel that I never knew existed until I started capturing this footage. Did this game come out in the United States? I don't remember seeing this in the US. But man, I wish I did. You can shoot forward, you can shoot above you, just like Moon Patrol, but instead of jumping over holes, you have three kind of areas. You go in the background, you can go in the foreground, and that's going to depend on, you know, where other enemies are showing up and things like that too. I was a huge fan of Moon Patrol, and this game looks fantastic, but did you ever see this in the arcade in the United States? I never did. But it's also not saying much, because there were so many arcades and there were so many games that were released in the 80s especially, that I just completely, you know, I didn't know until later on when MAME came out, and, you know, I started, you know, seeing all these other lists, or then I started traveling and seeing, you know, other arcade machines in other arcades, you know, around the country that, you know, there's just so much stuff out there. That's, you know, so this is even a game that's new to me that I'm just showing off just a little bit, because it came out in 1985. I wanted to show it off. I love it. Here's a game called Jumpshot. Boy, it's that classic rally midway style of graphics, just solid colors, bright, vivid. I liked this. This is interesting because, like, when you do the jump shot, everything goes slow motion. It's like the instant replay style. I just thought it was kind of interesting. This game is called Kicker. Man, I mean, this is 1985. They didn't even run out of the good names yet, and you still call the game Kicker? Well, it was a Shaolin-style game in Japan, but when it came out in the United States, again, they change up the graphics a little bit, so you play as like some dude kicking. and you have the multiple platforms you can jump up onto and take care of these enemies as they come through and all that, man. Check out Kicker, indeed. Oh, that's a pretty cool game. You could totally feel and see that kind of this probably came out for the Famicom. I should look that up. Lizard Wizard was a game that came out in '85. All right, let's check out Lizard Wizard. Well, and this reminds me of that little jetpack. What's that game that's super popular in the UK that never really came out in the United States? It was like just called like Jetpack or something like that. There's like a Jetpack games and Jetpack clones. And then this has that little, you're some dude on a jetpack, and you're shooting the fireballs and shooting the magmatic rocks, the volcano erupting and all that. And watch out for the dragons. You can also take care of the dragons, though. I could have seen this being a fun game. I would have seen this not in the popular arcades, but like the other arcades at the dirt mall of like in the basements and stuff like that too. I could have seen this game there. I would have played it too. Is it Moto S or Motos? This game plays like a Mario Party minigame. This game plays like it's that, I mean, I'm not kidding when I say that. They've had Mario Party minigames just like this, where you have to kind of bump the other ball out of the arena without bumping yourself off of the platform. As the stages go on, it becomes more and more difficult, more and more obstacles in the way for you to also have to deal with and stuff like that too. You ever see Section Z in the arcade? Well, Section Z in the arcade is different from the Section Z that we got on the NES. It plays very similar, and it even looks kind of the same too, where it's like you're shooting one way, you can also turn around and shoot the other direction. On the NES one, I think the A and B buttons is shoot right, shoot left. This one is more shoot, and then the other button pivots you left and right. But still, it plays like this. It is just a horizontal shooter, but unlike the NES version, because again, when NES games came out, they had to kind of change them up from the arcade, so it's not just level 1, level 2, give you a little bit more variety. Instead of choosing where you want to go next, you just go to where you need to go next. And that's Section Z in the arcade for you. Ye Are Kung Fu was a game I remember seeing a lot of people play. I didn't play it very much, but I did see people play this because I was so fascinated by the fact that there is just a 2D one-on-one fighting game. It's not going level 1, level 2, level 3. It's not a horizontal mover. It's not a, building climber. It's just you versus the enemy. You have health, they have health. Take care of them before they take care of you, in a kind of kung fu variety where you have a punch button and a kick button, and then depending on which direction you hold on the controller will be a different punch or a different kick. I thought that was ingenious of an idea. Now, you don't have special moves. You're not throwing fireballs and stuff like that. The other enemies will throw throwing stars or fans or have a pole or something like that. But this game blew my mind for the time. And this was the first like one-on-one fighting game I think I remember seeing ever. Then later on we get games like Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat, everything else. But to me, it all started with this one. I don't know if it was the one that kicked it off. I don't know if there were ones before this. They probably were. But this is the first one I remember seeing. And again, it blew my mind, the fact that the whole game was just you versus them, one-on-one. And just grab them before they grab you. The Famicom version, terrible. Don't play it. But the arcade version, it's pretty cool. It's worth checking out. I've covered a lot more arcade games through the years, as well as home console games as well. So make sure you check out those videos. Would love to have you as a subscriber, and we'll see you real soon.